Hello, you're watching World Talks. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. Tehran has vowed retaliation after the U.S. seized an Iran-flagged vessel attempting to run a blockade. Now, U.S. negotiators are expected in Pakistan for talks, though it appears that Iran may not send a delegation. Now, with tanker traffic already heavily restricted in the world's most critical energy choke point, and both sides trading accusations of violations, the crisis is driving global energy market volatility and raising the risk of further escalation. We speak now with Silvia Boltuc, a managing director of SpecialEurasia. Good to have you with us.
Good morning, it's my pleasure.
So if we are going to just discuss the latest, it does seem that the Iranian authorities, is just breaking news, that they may not actually be sending any delegation to Islamabad in Pakistan at all. Now, if that's true, or just get your sense of what you make of that latest, is this another ploy? Is this already a setback? What do you take as the newest developments here?
We are all quite confused by this declaration. Of course, Iranian authorities are trying to show their strength. There was this major hit yesterday. The U.S. Navy hit an Iranian flag cargo ship moving towards the Gulf of Oman, and the Iranian authority announced some kind of retaliation, although it is not known in which form, which is if it's a military one or, as we are witnessing this morning, not attending the next talks in Islamabad. Actually, it is quite concerning, since we are in 2 days the ceasefire will expire, and therefore it's very vital that we exploit this last room of maneuver that we have to achieve an agreement. On the other side, we see that both parts are playing a kind of psychological war, and therefore this might also be a bluff to put pressure on them, as Trump did many times through its tweets. Still, we know that there is a kind of pattern in the behavior of the United States towards negotiation with Iran. It happened in 2 previous occasions that negotiation was just a tool to deflect the Iranian attention while preparing for another strike. Indeed, we are monitoring in the last 2 days, some major movement in all U.S. bases in the region, and this is quite concerning.
Mm-hmm. And I know it's difficult to pinpoint what exactly contributed to it. I mean, violations on both sides, with the Americans also saying something that the Iranians did first, etc. Let's just run with our audience briefly the latest that President Trump has said, and we'll just get your feedback on it.
Iran decided to fire bullets yesterday in the Strait of Hormuz, a total violation of our ceasefire agreement. Iran recently announced that they were blocking the strait, which is strange because our blockade has already closed it. We're offering a very fair and reasonable deal, and I hope they take it, because if they don't, the United States is going to knock out every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran. No more Mr. Nice Guy.
Right. So, again, coherent strategy here, or saber rattling? How do you take the president's words here?
Well, as I already told, it's a psychological war. Trump is receiving a lot of pressure inside the U.S., both from the population and from the Congress. He is also approaching the midterm election, and they may face a major fertilizer crisis inside the U.S. Energy is not really the point for the U.S. Indeed, they have their own production, and now that they size also the Venezuela production, they don't have any problem in be autosufficient with the energy production. This is more a problem for us, but they are approaching a major fertilizer crisis if the Strait of Hormuz will not be unblocked. And therefore, I think that Trump is nervous. I think that it is proved also by his attitudes towards his European allies, such as recently Giorgia Meloni or previously French President Macron. But he's trying through his tweets and these threats to put pressure on the Iranian side and trying to achieve a victory. So the real question is, what does the victory look like for the U.S. administration? They started this war with the argument that Iran was developing a nuclear weapon. Therefore, I think that a victory should be linked to the nuclear dossier. And this is the reason why they are like pushing much on this dossier and not on the missile one, because they need to achieve this victory in order like for the US population to digest this war, which was really harshly criticized.
Yeah, I think that's what I was going to ask you, because he keeps touting this deal in which one of the main sticking points is that uranium, the uranium enrichment program, which the Iranians have said they were not going to negotiate on. The Americans also have their red lines on the other hand. I'm just curious, because if we look back a bit of history, I mean, the last sort of deal that was done involved several nations came to the table, including the Europeans, the Americans. It took years to actually get there. Can Donald Trump, can the Americans get a deal with Iran of any kind without other major nations involved?
I think they can. Indeed, the last time it was exactly Donald Trump that withdrew unilaterally from the agreement, from the JCPOA, and the European Union, at the very beginning, they reassured Iran that they will not comply with the sanction imposed by the US, but they will still willing to trade with Iran, and this never happens. This is one of the reasons why Tehran has this huge mistrust also towards the European Union, because they reassure them, but as a matter of fact, they could not comply with their promises, because at the end of the day, the entire globe like respect the sanction imposed by the US, particularly because, of course, energy exchange or trade is mainly linked to the dollar. So I think that they are actually the main power that should sit at the table with Iran. And if Donald Trump will achieve any kind of agreement, I'm sure that European Union will follow. By the way, they are also gathering in the near future to approach the crisis in the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, and about the Strait of Hormuz, I mean, this is obviously not good for global markets. We've already seen price volatility on oil, but also in Europe, very much looking at how we need to fill up the LNG, the gas. That's something of a big problem on the horizon. Markets up and down. How much of a, let's say, volatility crisis will this be? How much worse will it get if we don't get some sort of stability in terms of any kind of ceasefire and deal?
Well, it will get worse. We see that every European country is approaching the crisis in a different way. We see now, we just heard in your previous service that Germany is looking towards Norway to get the energy. Italy, for example, was approaching countries like Algeria. We saw Spain that for a short period of time started getting gas from Russia, for example, and the crisis for us might be resolved, but in a very, actually with a very controversial decision, which will be to re-engage with Russia and to buy again energy from Russia, which at this point it's quite difficult to foresee, actually, given our position, of course, and that given that we sided in the last years with Ukraine. And I think that with the Southern Corridor clause, and I'm referring to Russia, and now with the stop in the Gulf of Hormuz, which can even get worse if the Iranians like coordinate with their proxies in the region and also close the Strait of Maldives, it will be a major shock, and I don't think that we are able to survive it.
Mm-hmm. Now, as you mentioned at the beginning, it's 2 days left of the ceasefire, very fragile ceasefire that it is. Now with negotiations, we have confirmed that the Iranians are not sending a delegation to Islamabad. Where does this leave us in the next few days, really?
Well, as I say, I think they are both trying to put pressure on the other side. So they are playing like a psychological game right now. Iranian authorities, Ghalibaf specifically in recent days, acknowledged that they are not militarily superior to the United States, that they cannot compare their experience, their equipment to the one that the US possesses, of course, but they still have some assets, they still have some leverage, and again, Trump is also in a very fragile position, and therefore I think they are really playing up psychological warfare, and they're trying to put pressure on the other side both. And so in the next 2 days, I think that we can experience some major news. Maybe there will be some sort of agreement, thanks also to the mediation of Pakistan and countries like Oman. If this will not happen, I think that unfortunately we will see a major escalation again in the Gulf.
All right, so as you said, pressure from both sides, on both sides in this situation. Thank you so much for all that. Silvia Boltuc there, Managing Director, SpecialEurasia. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.